Hi, this is the Cardboard Stacker, and we're here again with another post-play where I give my impressions and my thoughts on the game after I first played it. So this game we're going to feature is Kingdom Death by Kingdom Death. Kingdom Death is a miniatures campaign cooperative game in which players they go ahead and go out and defeat a very big monster, more like a boss battle kind of thing. And they have some weapons they can use. They have some armor. One of the things is the game that you is like you're possibly gonna die really fast because the monsters are immensely powerful. And so that was one part of the game. The other part is the settlement phase, where is basically the preparation of your warriors, your people. That's the people you are to go fight that big monster. And so in the game, you get to when you find a big monster, is that you want to do damage to it, and when you do damage, the monster has these attack cards, which represents not only their attacks but also their life points. And so when you do damage to the monster, their cards, the one they attack with, go into the discard pile. And so when you reach to a point where the monster has no more cards in their attack deck, and you deal one final blow to it, you get lots of stuff and material from that for that monster. You go back to your settlement. You can go ahead and build stuff and get weapons, get armor, and all that nice gear. Um, for the first two playthroughs, the first game was with 4 players. I'm not so sure if the game actually has like a DM, but the person who owns the game actually kind of like took care of all the monster stuff and asked us questions of like if you want to throw your stone. Throwing the stone is a big thing in the game, I guess in the beginning. But the second game I played was with 6 people, and that's quite a lot more, and that kind of changes the game I think a little differently. The monster gets a little more of a head boost, but I think I like a 4-player game more. One of the interesting things I like about the game is that it has a lot of parallels to another game called Monster Hunter, and Monster Hunter is just is a video game which I play mostly on the 3DS, and this is like a big boss battle where you just go ahead and try to defeat the boss, and you get materials. There's a lot of parallels to this. So you get defeat the boss, make materials, go find another boss, make materials. So you're getting stronger as you're. And so with these parallels, I instantly thought about them while playing the game, and so I'm really connected to the game in that way. The other sort of things I liked in the game was how the monster gets damage, and I think it works a little thematically. It's still a little loose, but the thing is when you damage the monster, they kind of lose their some sort of attack. So like if you injure its paw, then it can't attack with its paw anymore. So that makes sense. And as the monster gets more bloodied and less cards in its attack deck, the less things it can do. It's a bit more predictable, but you can go ahead and see and try to pinpoint, how to defeat that monster from that point. Because when the monster is fresh, it's very hard to attack it and see what it does because it's like very random at that point. But as you go on, you can see how the monster dwindles and it becomes more predictable. And while the one side of the game is about fighting monsters, the other side is about going to the settlement and doing stuff. So you're not just only building weapons and stuff. You actually also find innovation like language, which actually will help you during the battles. You can also have there's like an armor you can build, but you have to you start with nothing, really nothing, and you have to build it, but you have to sacrifice items. So this is sort of like give and take kind of thing where you can build this thing, but you need those items to also make stuff when what that building gives. So if it's like an armory, you have to give up some items to make that armory, but you also need to have items to build what that armory can build. And this leads to the over arc of the game, which is like it kind of pushes you to keep moving on. You can't really squat down and just grind. You cannot grind this game because the game will push forward. I believe the game kind of goes to like a set number of battles, or I guess campaigns you can go through, but it will push you to go and fight more battles, but use your items efficiently so you can't just squat down and just make a bunch of items and go out in there. So that's also what I think the game is great. I also felt the game was actually simple but yet complex. And like in when we're first fighting off with the first monster, we just either hit it or dodge it or anything like that. But what makes the game is intriguing is also some of the flavor it gives, through the cards and stuff. It's also pretty gruesome. Some of the violence and that all that's in the art. And I think the other thing that's nice about the game is that you have this sheet, this player sheet that has like all the stuff you can, that keeps track of. It's more simplified than some of the RPGs I played with, because it's the board game and the miniatures game. But I think what's cool about it is like usually you would die off and have a new character. So this is this I guess it's a quick way to actually build more characters. I mean everything is on there too, but you can also like be a person in the game for like a few sessions and then come back later in a different session, and skip a few turns. And also in the settlement phase, there's a feeling of like this open-endedness where you can actually just go. I talked about you can go build these kind of things, but you don't have to build them in order. You can have to go ahead and build them in different directions as you see fit. So ways of building stuff, and also ways of getting those bonus battle bonuses you can get too. I think the first thing I didn't like about the game is that, especially when switching from 4 players to 6 players, is that the game kind of ramps up tremendously, and I think the game makes it way harder when we're having more people playing. And I think 4 actually felt fine when we were playing it. People died though, but I guess it's part of the theme of the game. And the other thing is, and while I actually don't own the game or do anything else, there's actually quite a lot of stuff. And if you're disorganized, I guess the game won't go as quickly as possible, or at least efficiently. The guy who was in charge of the game was looking through decks all the time. I have to say, like, some of the decks are really they're kind of hard to see on the backs. It's a little faded. It's like it's very dark. Has some art in it, but it's like innovation, and it's very dark and hard to see sometimes. There are different sizes of card, but sometimes it's the trying to find exactly the cards, because even though the cards actually have different backings on them despite the size. And this is also coming from the first plays of the game, but it seems that there wasn't much in the fighting we can do, which is just keep punching the monster. But I can see in the future that we have more stuff to do. But in the beginning, I think it's a little too limited, actually. And for recommendation, I think I would recommend it with an asterisk right in front of it. It's because of its very, very mature content. It's if you look at the rulebook, I think the art is fine and wonderful. It is very graphic and gruesome. They also show, lots of blood, lots of, guts spilling out, nudity. For my taste, I think I go on and off of it. Yes, I think the art is good, but then again, it's a little bit just a little bit on the gruesome side, but not too gruesome. But I can actually just handle it fine. But for those who want to play it, I think the game is wonderful. I think, but to be wary about the art, and that's probably the only thing you have to know about going into this game. Alright, and this wraps up this post play, so go ahead, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe. You can go ahead and visit our Patreon page, visit us on Twitter, and always keep on stacking games.